Welcome to Mr. McGuire's class. We're dealing with math today. We're going to talk about Module 3, Lesson 1. I'm going to call this one the pre-lesson because it'll help you. So if I have a box, let's say, like I do there with the yellow, let me erase this. What do I have if I colored in the entire box? What would I have? Well, I hope you're saying you have one whole, because you would be correct. This is one whole box. So how could we represent that using a fraction? Well, if you notice, I put pieces down at the bottom. How many pieces are there in that one big square? Well, there's one big piece, isn't there? And how many of those big pieces do we have? Well, we have one. So as you can tell, one whole equals 1 over 1. Now, what if I took this pen and I cut it in half? What would my decimal, what would my fraction be? Well, how many pieces do I have? 1, 2. I have 2 pieces, so what's my bottom number going to be? Now notice the bottom number is how many pieces we have. So how many pieces do we have? Well, we have 2, right? And how many of those are shaded in? I hope you said 2, and you're correct. So we have 2. Do you see that it's still one whole? Do you still see that? Okay, I'm going to try to get rid of the 2. Yeah, I knew it was going to get rid of my color. So anyway, here I go. Let's just go with this is one whole. Okay. Now what do I want to do is I'm going to cut it again in half. So I'm going to take the half and cut it in half again. What do you think my bottom number would be? How many pieces do I have? I'll put PCS down here for pieces, okay? So how many pieces do I have now? I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So what would my bottom number be? It would be 4. And how many of those pieces do I have that are filled in? Yeah, I know that it's not the best filled in, but it's filled in well enough to say we have 4 out of 4 pieces. So do you see that one whole can be represented as a fraction? Anytime that the number on the top matches the number on the bottom, that means you have one whole thing. Okay? Are you with me? I hope so. I'm going to go ahead and erase these again. Okay? And I'm going to let's cut these halves in half, these quarters in half, I guess. Now how many pieces do I have? Does anybody know? Well, I'm not going to shade them in any longer. Is that okay with you? Well, let's count. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So what's my bottom number going to be? It's going to be 8. That's right. Now, how many of those are... I'll do it because I can't help myself. How many of them are shaded in? Pretend this is shaded in too, okay. How many of them are shaded in? All 8 of them. So we have 8 over 8. Now, you're saying, well, Mr. McGuire, I get this. This makes sense. It's pretty simple. I'm glad you're saying that. Let me just do one more, and then I'll go to my next idea. I'm going to cut those in half. Wow. Now how many do I have that are all shaded in? Well, we could count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. So what's my bottom number going to be? It's going to be 16. How many of the 16 do I have shaded in? I have them all. So it's 16 over 16. Now what's funky about this is 16 over 16 still equals what? 1. So no matter what the number is, on the, if you have the super big number like 16, it's big for us, and we have a 16 over the top, that means it's one whole. So let's just use our brain a little bit and say, what if I had 97 on the bottom? What would I have to put on the top to make this equal to 1? What would I have to put on top to make it equal to 1? Go.
97.
97 is right. Now, that's a super big number, and it seems like we have a lot, but we only really just have 1. So 1 equals 97 over 97, 32 over 32, 57 over 57, no matter what the number is, it's going to work out that way. Does that make sense? All right, let's move on. Let's talk about a number line really quick, okay? Now this might be the first time that some of you have seen a number line. So let's say I have my 0 here, and I put my 1 here, okay? So if I have a, let's say I put my line, it goes all the way to the 1. I have 1 whole, right? So I could say, well, this is 1 whole, or I could make what fraction out of that? Well, 1 over 1, right? Okay, what if I did it this way? What if I put a line in the middle? Now what do I have? Yeah?
A half.
I have a half. So I have, let me change my color on my highlighter. I've got 1, 2. So that means that I'm going to need to put a 2 here. And over here, where that 1 is, what am I going to need to put on the bottom? What am I going to need to put on the bottom?
2.
A 2, yeah. So the one in the middle, that's 1 of the 2, right? And then when I go all the way over to this spot here, what do I have? I've got 2 over 2. Does that make sense? Do you see how 2 over 2 is still equal to 1? Let me use a different color. Let's use blue, and let's cut it up again, shall we? So let's do this. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. What do you think our bottom number is going to be on these? What do you think our bottom number is going to be? Yes.
4.
A 4, right. So we're going to put a 4 as our bottom number because these are in 4s, right? 4 pieces. So my first one, I'm going to put a 1. How about this one in the middle? How many is that? Well, let me use my highlighter. I got 1, 2, right? So I'm going to put a 2 over 4. 2 is half of 4, isn't it? So isn't that wild? 2 is half of 4. Cool. And then what do I put in, what do I put in this spot right here? What am I going to put there? Someone help me. Yeah.
3.
3. You were correct. And then where the 1 is, what am I going to put there? Yeah. A 4. So we have 4 over 4, and that still equals what? 1. 1 whole. Right. Now what if I went over here with the 4s? Holy moly. Does that freak anybody out? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, I'll tell you what. We'll talk about that. Let me just say this about it. We've counted over, right? We have a 1 here, 2, count with me, 1, 2, 3, 4, and what do you think this is?
5.
5. So it's a 5 over 4. Wow, the number on the top is bigger, isn't it? So that means we have more than one whole in a fraction. Crazy, isn't it? We'll talk more about that later, so let's not get bothered by that, okay? Would it be okay if I just left that up there, or does it bother you and I need to erase it? Is it going to be all right? Okay. All right, now watch this. I'm going to take my 4th, let's say, and what do I do to it to turn it in, let's say, to a half? What would I do to it to turn it into a half? I would want to, yeah?
Away 2.
Hmm?
Take away 2.
How do you take something away from this? That's not going to work. How could I turn it into a half? Well, I just need to add another 4th, right? So 1/4 plus 1/4 equals 1/2. Because if you notice, this 4th here, I add that to this next 4th, which is right in here, right? And I get 1/2, aka 2/4, right? Does that make sense? Or did I say that backward? Maybe I should have said it this way. Maybe I should say this. Let me change that slightly. Maybe what I should have said is 1/4 plus 1/4 is 2/4, and then say that equals what? 1/2. Because we see 2/4 and 1/2 is the same, isn't it? Do you see that? So this is our first lesson of fractions and what they mean, and also talking about the area model and as a whole, and we're also talking about a whole in a number line with fractions. So I hope that this helps. If not, just go back over it, keep trying, keep writing everything out with me, and just pause it if you need to and write things down, and then hit the play and keep working with it, and it'll make sense after a while. All right? Well, thank you for viewing. I love math.